What if the strongest warrior in the universe chose more than just battle? What if Goku rose beyond gods and became the god of love and war? A being whose power shook realities, and whose presence drew the most formidable women of every universe to his side. This is a timeline where strength alone is not enough, where loyalty is forged through war, and love becomes a force greater than Ultra Instinct. No limits, no divine laws, no destiny left untouched. From mortal worlds to godly realms, Goku does not rise as a hero, but as a ruler whose fists command fear, and whose heart creates an empire. This is not the Dragon Ball story you remember. This is the story where power, passion, and conquest collide. Welcome to What If Nexus. Welcome to the reign of the god of love and war. Chapter 1. The Divine Decree of the Heart. The multiverse tournament of power had left a lingering resonance across the dimensions, but for Son Goku, the silence of peace was always the loudest sound. He sat atop a jagged peak on Mount Paozu, his legs crossed, eyes closed, searching for a heat he couldn't quite find within his own spirit. Suddenly, the fabric of reality too reopened, not with the jagged violet energy of a destroyer, but with a shimmering, rose-gold light that smelled of cherry blossoms and ozone. Great Priest Whis stepped through, his expression uncharacteristically solemn. Beside him stood the Grand Minister, holding a scroll that pulsed with the rhythm of a heartbeat. Son Goku, the Grand Minister's voice echoed through the valley. The Zen-Osamas have observed a vacuum in the celestial order. Universe 7 has mastered the art of destruction and the grace of creation, but it lacks the tether that binds sentient life together, the balance of passion and conflict. Goku stood, scratching the back of his head. Hi guys, does that mean there's a new guy the first get to fight? Whis chuckled, though there was a hint of warning in his eyes. Not quite, Goku. The Zen-Osamas have decided that you are the only mortal with a heart pure enough to contain the volatile essence of both love and war. They are appointing you the dual sovereign god of Universe 7. Before Goku could protest or ask about lunch, the Grand Minister unrolled the scroll. A pillar of crimson and pink light engulfed the Saiyan. Goku felt his very atoms being rewritten. The primal, aggressive roar of his great ape lineage fused with a newfound, overwhelming empathy for every living soul in the cosmos. His orange GI shifted, the fabric turning a deep, royal maroon with gold trimmings. And a white sash appeared across his chest, inscribed with ancient runes of affection and battle. The transformation was agonizing and euphoric. He saw visions of every battle he had ever fought, not as contests of strength, but as dances of connection. He saw Chi-Chi's fierce devotion, Bulma's hidden admiration, and the respect of his rivals. As the god of love and war, Whis explained as the light faded. Your power no longer comes from just training. It comes from the bonds you forge. To maintain the stability of the universe, you must lead through divine union. You are to establish a court, a harem of protectors and advisors who represent the various facets of your new domain. Goku landed on his feet, his aura now a soft, pulsing rose gold that made the grass beneath him grow instantly. He felt stronger than he ever had in Ultra Instinct, but his heart felt strangely heavy. So, I have to get married again? Goku asked, sounding genuinely confused. In a sense, Whis replied, tapping his staff. But these bonds are cosmic. Your first task is to visit the Red Ribbon sector. A familiar soul is experiencing a conflict that only the god of love and war can resolve. If you fail to balance her heart, the sector will collapse into a black hole of pure hatred. Goku looked at his hands. He could feel the emotions of people light years away. He felt a sharp, icy sp. K of loneliness coming from the direction of the old laboratory ruins. It was 21. I don't really get the love part yet, Goku said, a small, confident smirk forming on his face. But if it involves a good fight and helping a friend, I'm in. He vanished in a burst of rose-tinted light, leaving behind a scent of ozone and roses. The era of the Saiyan god had begun, not with a fist, but with a promise of something far more complex. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. The Hunger of the Android's Heart. The ruins of the northern wastes were choked with a biting, artificial frost. As Goku materialized, the air didn't just feel cold. It felt hollow. His new divine senses screamed. As the god of love and war, he could no longer perceive power levels as mere numbers, he felt them as emotional frequencies. And right now, the frequency coming from the subterranean depths of the old Gero lab was a screeching discord of starvation and isolation. He descended through the jagged metal maw of the entrance. Down in the belly of the facility, Surrounded by shattered glass tubes and flickering monitors, stood Android 21. Her lab coat was tattered, her eyes, usually a brilliant blue, were flashing a dangerous, predator pink. Her skin was pale, and her breath came in ragged gasps. "Goku," she hissed, her voice a mix of longing and lethal hunger. "Why did you come here?" "The hunger, it's different this time. I don't just want to turn you into a snack. I want to tear the essence out of you." Goku walked forward, his maroon and gold robes flowing behind him. Usually, he'd take a fighting stance, but his body refused. The love aspect of his divinity was pulsing, forcing him to see the scared, lonely woman beneath the bio-android exterior. "I'm not here to fight you, 21, Goku said, his voice ringing an echo he didn't recognize, a deep, resonant bass that seemed to calm the vibrating air. "Or well, maybe I am. But not the way we used to. Stay back," she roared, unleashing a wave of magenta energy. Goku didn't dodge, he raised a hand, and instead of a key shield, a soft rose gold barrier manifested. When her energy hit it, the destructive force didn't explode, it dissolved into warmth. 21 gasped. The sudden influx of love energy acting like a sedative to her erratic systems. What is this?" She trembled, dropping to her knees. "It feels like being full. But I haven't eaten anything. It's a different kind of energy," Goku explained, stepping closer. He knelt in front of her, reaching out to touch her shoulder. "The Grand Minister called it divine union. You're hungry because you're trying to fill a hole in your soul with power. But you're a part of this universe, and as its god, I'm supposed to be the bridge." As his hand made contact, a surge of golden light bridged the gap between them. 21 screamed as her Majin form began to manifest, the pink skin, the long tail, but it didn't look monstrous. Under Goku's influence, the chaotic Majin cells began to align. Her aura turned from a muddy violet to a shimmering magenta white. The war side of Goku's power sparked. He realized that to save her, he had to conquer the beast within her. He pulled her into a sudden, firm embrace. It wasn't an act of romance, but an act of absolute, authoritative protection. "I'm claiming your conflict, 21, Goku whispered. "Your hunger is my hunger now." The energy transfer was violent. The lab shook as the ground cracked. 21's claws dug into Goku's back, but he didn't flinch. He absorbed the malice of her hunger, neutralizing it with the infinite well of his new divine spark. Slowly, the lab grew quiet. 21 slumped against his chest, her breathing finally steady. She wasn't cured of being an android or a Majin, but the gluttony had been replaced by a bond. You're glowing," she whispered, looking up at him. For the first time, her eyes weren't searching for a weakness, they were searching for him. "I'm the god of love and war now," Goku said, helping her stand. "And the Grand Minister says I need a court. People to help me keep the balance. You've spent your whole life fighting yourself, 21. How about you fight for the universe instead? By my side." 21 felt a pull in her chest, a tether of light connecting her heart to his. It was the first strand of the divine harem, a bond of fealty and affection that granted her a fraction of his godhood. Her power soared, her mind cleared, and for the first time in her existence, the hunger was gone. "I suppose," she smiled, a genuine, soft expression that reached her eyes. "I've always had a taste for you, Son Goku. If this is the only way to stay close to that light, I accept." Just then, the sky outside turned a bruised purple. A new rift opened. This wasn't the Grand Priest. It was a cold, mechanical presence. "One down," a voice echoed from the shadows of the lab. "But can the god of love handle a woman who has forgotten how to feel either?" Goku turned, sensing a familiar, icy presence. The first test was over. But the war for the hearts of the multiverse had only just begun. End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3. The Empress of the Frozen Void. The icy presence in the lab hadn't been a ghost, but a transmission, a psychic chilling of the air that pointed Goku toward the far reaches of the galactic north. Leaving Android 21 to stabilize the Earth's emotional ley lines, Goku transitioned through the stars. His rose-gold trail cutting a path through the vacuum of space like a bleeding sunset. He arrived on a planet of jagged obsidian and perpetual blizzards, planet Frieza 448. But Frieza wasn't there. Instead, the throne room was occupied by a figure of sleek, silver and violet armor. It was Chilai, but she was different. She sat upon a throne of condensed dark matter, her eyes glowing with a terrifying, hollow light. "Goku," she said, her voice sounding like grinding glaciers. The God of Love arrives. A bit late for this sector, don't you think? We stopped feeling anything here a long time ago. Goku looked around. The elite soldiers stood like statues, their hearts completely devoid of passion, fear, or even loyalty. They were husks. What happened here, Chilai? Goku asked, his maroon robe snapping in the artificial wind of the hall. Where's Broly? He wouldn't let you become like this. At the mention of Broly, a crack appeared in the obsidian floor. Chilai's composure shattered for a microsecond, replaced by a spike of agonizing grief so sharp it made Goku's divine heart physically ache. Broly is gone into the great silence, she spat. He couldn't handle the power. And I couldn't handle the loss. So I took the elixir of the void. I traded my love for the power to rule the vacuum he left behind. Goku understood then. This was the war side of his mandate. Love wasn't just about kindness, it was the fuel for the spirit. Without it, the universe became a cold, mechanical graveyard. As the god of war, he saw her grief as a rebellion against the natural order. You're lying to yourself, Goku said, walking up the steps of the dais. The soldiers moved to intercept him, but Goku didn't even raise a hand. He released a pulse of Eros combat, a divine technique that forced every being in the room to feel the weight of their own repressed desires. The soldiers fell to their knees, weeping or laughing as their frozen hearts thawed instantly. Chilai lunged from the throne, a spear of pure zero-point energy in her hand. Don't you dare make me feel again. The clash was silent. Goku caught the spear's tip between two fingers. The war RGY within him turned his aura into a fierce, burning crimson. He wasn't fighting to destroy her, he was fighting to conquer the apathy that had enslaved her. Conflict is life, Chilai. Goku roared, his voice shaking the foundations of the palace. If you don't fight for what you love, you're already dead. He pulled her forward, shattering the spear, and pressed his forehead against hers. In that moment of divine link, he forced her to see Broly, not as a lost memory, but as a living flame within the multiverse that he, as a god, could protect. He shared with her the heat of the suns he had birthed and the passion of the battles he had won. The silver tint in her eyes washed away, replaced by a vibrant, tearful emerald. The elixir of the void was burned out of her system by the sheer friction of Goku's spirit. It hurts, she sobbed, clutching his maroon sash. It hurts so much to care. I know, Goku whispered, his voice softening. But that's where the strength comes from. I need that fire, Chilai. I need someone who knows the cost of love to lead my vanguard. As the divine light settled, a mark appeared on Chilai's brow, a small, golden sigil of a shield entwined with a rose. She had become the second pillar of his court, the warden of passion. Broly, is he really still out there? She asked, looking up at him with a new kind of devotion. We'll find him, Goku promised. But first, we have to stop the universe from turning cold. And I think I know where the next spark is. Goku looked toward the horizon. He felt a chaotic, playful energy radiating from the direction of Universe 6. It was wild, unrefined, and desperately looking for a master. It was time to pay a visit to the Saiyan girls. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4. The Wild Hearts of Sadala. The transit, Ion to Universe 6 felt like a physical jolt to Goku's new senses. While Universe 7 had felt heavy with history and sorrow, Universe 6 pulsed with a raw, electric restlessness. He arrived above planet Sadala, the ancestral home of the Saiyans, accompanied by Android 21 and Chilai. Both women stood behind him, their auras now harmonized with his divine frequency, one a cool, calculating magenta, the other a fierce, protective emerald. This place, 21 murmured, adjusting her glasses as her Majin tail flicked. It's vibrating with unspent aggression. That's just the Saiyans, Goku laughed, though his eyes remained sharp. But it's different now, I can feel their spirits pulling in two different directions. Down in the heart of the capital, a massive arena had been carved into the red rock. In the center, Caulifla was locked in a fierce sparring match with Kale, but the air around them was distorted. Caulifla's Super Saiyan 2 form was flickering with a jagged, black electricity, and Kale's legendary green aura was dense. Almost suffocating, as if her power was trying to implode rather than explode. Goku descended like a falling star, landing between them just as their fists were about to collide. The shockwave of his landing didn't push them back, it absorbed their kinetic energy, turning the violent impact into a shower of soft gold sparks. Goku, Caulifla barked, skidding to a halt. She looked frustrated, her hair wilder than usual. What's with the fancy clothes? And why do you smell like flowers and gunpowder? It's a long story, Caulifla, Goku said, his voice carrying the weight of his new authority. But I'm here because your hearts are out of sync. You're fighting each other because you don't know who to fight for. Don't talk down to us. Caulifla yelled, her pride flaring. She lunged, her fist coated in that strange, dark energy. Goku didn't move. He used the aegis of affection, a technique of the god of love. As Caulifla's punch landed on his chest, the war side of his power analyzed her technique, while the love side felt her underlying fear, the fear that she wasn't strong enough to protect Kale in this changing multiverse. The dark energy shattered against Goku's maroon robes. He reached out and caught Caulifla by the wrist, pulling her close. You're trying to carry the weight of your whole race alone. That's not how a queen of war acts. Kale let out a guttural roar, her muscles bulging as she entered her berserk state, her eyes going blank. She saw Goku holding Caulifla and perceived it as a threat. She charged, a mountain of green muscle and uncontrolled rage. Kale, stop, Chilai shouted, stepping forward, but Goku waved her back. I've got this, Goku said. He let go of Caulifla and turned to face the charging berserker. Instead of meeting her with a punch, he expanded his aura until it encompassed the entire arena. This was the Sovereign's embrace. The rose gold light flooded Kale's vision. To her, it felt like the warmth of a summer sun after a lifetime in the dark. Goku stepped into her space, his movements fluid and calm. He placed a hand over her heart, and the war god within him spoke directly to the warrior within her. Your power isn't a curse, Kale. It's a devotion. Use it to anchor her, and let her be your edge. The transformation was instantaneous. The green, chaotic energy smoothed out, turning into a brilliant, translucent jade. Kale shrank back to her base form, but she remained in her controlled, legendary state, calm, focused, and utterly powerful. Goku stood between them, a hand on each of their shoulders. The divine link snapped into place. Caulifla felt a rush of strategic clarity and an unshakable bond to Goku's cause, while Kale felt a profound sense of peace and purpose. The multiverse is fracturing, Goku told them, his eyes glowing with divine light. I'm building a court to keep it from falling apart. Caulifla, you are my dread general of passion. Kale, you are the shield of the divine heart. Caulifla looked at her hands, which were now glowing with a refined, golden red light. She looked at Goku, and for the first time, her defiance turned into a fierce, loyal devotion. If this means I get to fight alongside the strongest guy in the multiverse and keep my sister safe, then count me in. But don't think this makes you the boss of me, God. Goku chuckled. Wouldn't dream of it. As the two Saiyans took their places behind him, joining 21 and Chilai, the sky above Sadala began to ripple. A messenger from the Grand Priest appeared, his face pale. Lord Goku, the goddesses of the neighboring universes have caught wind of your court. They view your new title as a provocation. The goddess of destruction, Hellas, is already on her way to challenge your claim over love. Goku looked at his growing harem of warriors. Well, he said, a battle-hungry grin spreading across his face. I guess it's time to show them how a god of love and war handles a challenge. End of Chapter 4. Chapter 5. The Judgment of Elegance. The atmosphere over planet Sadala didn't just change, it became perfumed. A heavy, intoxicating scent of frankincense and lilies rolled across the landscape as a golden chariot, pulled by winged lions, descended from the stars. Standing atop the vessel was Hellas, the goddess of destruction from Universe 2, her golden ornaments glinting with a lethal brilliance. Son Goku, she cried out, her voice a melodic symphony of pride. To think the Zen-Osamas would appoint a savage to the throne of love. It is an insult to everything beautiful. Love is grace, love is art, love is not a Saiyan in a fancy robe. Goku stepped forward, his maroon robes fluttering. Behind him, Android 21, Chilai, Caulifla, and Kale formed a crescent moon of power. The contrast was stark. Hellas represented the vanity of love, while Goku's group represented its raw, messy reality. I don't know much about art, Hellas, Goku said, his voice echoing with divine weight. But I know that love isn't just looking good. It's the strength to protect what matters. If you want to challenge my title, let's do it the way I know best. Hellas snapped her fingers. From behind her, the kamikaze fireballs, Ribrianne, Kakansa, and Rosie, leapt forward, their auras blazing in a neon pink light. A contest, Then, Hellas declared, the right of the radiant heart. If your court cannot withstand the beauty of our ultimate symphony, you shall abdicate your title and become my personal servant. The battlefield turned into a kaleidoscope of energy. Ribrianne led the charge, unleashing a light of love that didn't just damage, it sought to brainwash the target into a state of mindless adoration for Hellas. Chilai, Kale, on the defense. Goku commanded. Chilai stepped forward, her emerald aura expanding into a jagged crystalline wall. I've felt real loss, she growled, her eyes flashing. Your fake light doesn't spark a thing in me. The light of Lo Vei shattered against her wall of grief-hardened passion. Meanwhile, Caulifla and Android 21 moved like a blur. Caulifla, fueled by her new title as Dread General, struck with precision. Every punch she threw wasn't just physical. It was a war kiss, a divine strike that disrupted the flow of the fireballs, energy by forcing them to confront their own vanity. 21 followed up, her Majin tail whipping through the air. She didn't consume them, but she tasted their energy, neutralizing their magical attacks with her scientific divinity. Your energy is hollow, 21 mocked. It lacks the depth of a true bond. Seeing her subordinates pushed back, Hellas grew livid. She drew her golden bow, aiming an arrow of pure destruction energy at Goku. Then feel the sting of a goddess's rejection. The arrow flew, a streak of gold that promised total erasure. Goku didn't dodge, he entered the state of eternal devotion, a variation of ultra instinct fueled by his god of love mantle. He caught the arrow with his bare hand. The destructive Hakai energy hissed against his palm, but it couldn't penetrate the rose gold light. Goku crushed the arrow, the fragments turning into harmless flower petals. Anishton reappeared directly in front of Hellas, not with a fist, but with his hand outstretched. You're beautiful, Hellas, Goku said, his eyes filled with a terrifyingly pure sincerity that bypassed her defenses. But you're lonely. You surround yourself with mirrors because you're afraid to let anyone else in. That's not love. That's a prison, Hellas gasped, her Hakai aura flickering out. No one had ever spoken to her with such blunt, divine honesty. The war side of Goku's power exerted a spiritual pressure that forced her to her knees, while the love side offered a warmth she hadn't felt in eons. I am the goddess of beauty, she whispered, her pride crumbling. Then be beautiful for the right reasons, Goku said. He placed a finger on her forehead, and a spark of his rose gold energy transferred to her. It didn't make her his servant, but it created a divine accord. Hellas looked up, her eyes misty. She looked at Goku's harem, women of different races and powers, all bound by a genuine connection to the man before her. She realized her art was a lie. You win, son Goku, Hellas said softly, bowing her head. Universe 2 will acknowledge your sovereignty. And perhaps, I shall visit your court often to learn the art of a heart that actually beats. As the chariot ascended back to the stars, Ribrianne and her team followed, looking humbled. But as the dust settled, the Grand Minister's voice rang out through the minds of everyone present. The first trial of beauty is complete. But beware, God of love and war. The shadows of the old gods are stirring. They do not believe in love, and they have forgotten the meaning of war. They are coming for your heart, and they will start with the one you haven't yet saved. Goku looked at his hand. He felt a sudden, sharp pang of coldness. It was coming from the demon realm. It was a cry for help from a woman who had been trapped in time for far too long. Tawa, Goku whispered, the name surfacing from his divine knowledge. She's next. End of Chapter 5. Chapter 6. The Sorceress in the Crimson Mist. The gates to the demon realm did not open, they bled into existence. To reach the heart of the dark dimension, Goku had to exert his authority over the boundary between light and shadow. Behind him, his growing court, Android 21, Chilai, Caulifla, and Kale, stood ready, their combined auras creating a protect 4E sphere of rose gold and emerald that warded off the soul-corroding miasma of the abyss. This place is disgusting, Caulifla spat, sparks of red electricity dancing across her knuckles. It feels like the air is trying to eat my skin. It's the absence of connection, Goku explained, his eyes glowing with a steady, divine light. The demon realm is built on isolation. That's why their magic is so cold. As they reached the center of the void, a castle of frozen blood rose from the mists. Standing on the highest spire was Tawa, the brilliant and malevolent scientist of the demon realm. Her skin was a deathly pale blue, her white hair flowing like smoke, and her eyes burned with a calculated, frozen hatred. Beside her stood a mindless, hulking thrall, a reconstructed warrior fueled by dark energy. The god of love enters the realm of the loveless, Tawa mocked, her voice a sharp blade of ice. Do you intend to preach to the shadows, Goku? Or will you realize that conflict is the only true currency of the multiverse? I'm the god of war, too, Tawa, Goku said, his voice dropping an octave, vibrating with the roar of 1,000 battlefields. And right now, you're at war with yourself. You've spent eternity trying to resurrect a kingdom that died because it couldn't feel anything but greed. Tawa laughed, a hollow, melodic sound. I am a scientist. I deal in logic and power, not the fickle whims of the heart. She raised her staff, and the ground erupted. Hundreds of dark-masked soldiers surged from the shadows, their hearts replaced by mechanical cores of pure malice. Court, engage, Goku commanded. The battle was a symphony of divine retribution. Android 21 moved like a predator, her scientific mind analyzing Tao's dark magic and dismantling it with bursts of magenta light. Chilai and Kale formed an unbreakable frontline, their combined auras acting as a forge that melted the frozen shadows of the demon soldiers. Caulifla leapt into the fray, her strikes aving trails of rose gold fire that burned away the dark masks, freeing the trapped souls within. Tawa watched her army fall, her composure finally breaking. She channeled the entire energy of the demon realm into her staff, preparing a negative karma ball, meant to erase the concept of hope from the sector. If I cannot rule through shadow, I will ensure there is no light to rule at all. Goku didn't use a Kamehameha. He didn't use a physical strike. He flew directly into the center of the dark energy, his maroon robes glowing with a blinding, sun-like intensity. He reached through the mass of negative energy and grabbed Tawa's wrists. You're not doing this because you're evil, Tawa, Goku said, his face inches from hers. Through the divine link, he forced her to see her own history, the loss of her brother. The obsession with a legacy that brought her nothing but loneliness. You're doing this because you're the most lonely person in all the timelines. You want to rewrite history because you can't stand the present. Shut up, she screamed, but her staff began to crack. The love energy from Goku was like acid to her darkness, yet it felt like a healing balm to her spirit. I'm giving you a new purpose, Goku declared, his war aura flaring to conquer her rebellion. You don't need a dead kingdom. You need a cause worth fighting for. Be the architect of the divine order. Use that mind of yours to build something that lasts. The darkness shattered. The negative karma ball imploded, but instead of a blast, it released a wave of warmth that turned the crimson mist into a gentle violet fog. Tawa slumped into Goku's arms, her staff dissolving into dust. The mark of the divine court, an hourglass entwined with a rose, appeared on her throat. I can't believe I lost to a feeling, Tawa whispered, her eyes finally clearing of the demonic haze. She looked at Goku, seeing not a rival, but a source of infinite complexity that her logic could never fully solve. You didn't lose, Goku said, helping her stand. You just finally found a side worth winning for. As Tawa took her place among the others, the demon realm itself began to shift. The jagged obsidian softened, and the air became breathable. But the victory was short-lived. A golden light, far more ancient and stern than the grand priests, shone from above. The old gods of the primordial era had noticed. A voice, ancient as the stars, boomed. The Saiyan has tamed the demon. The balance is tilted. If love and war are to be won, then they must face the trial of the first hearth. Goku looked at his 5 companions. I think things are about to get a lot tougher. End of Chapter 6. Chapter 7. The Trial of the First Hearth. The transition from the demon realm was not a flight, but a displacement of reality. Goku and his 5 consorts, Android 21, Chilai, Caulifla, Kale, and the newly reformed Tawa, found themselves standing upon a platform of pure, white marble suspended in a void of swirling nebulae. This was the first hearth, the ancestral seat of the primordial gods who ruled before the Zenos were birthed. At the center of the platform burned a flame that did not cast light, but memories. Standing before the flame was a being of towering stature, his skin like polished bronze and his eyes like dying suns. He was Ignis, the primordial of the first spark. So, Ignis's voice rumbled, vibrating in their very marrow. The Zenos have appointed a mortal to balance the twin pillars of existence. But love is a weakness to the warrior, and war is a poison to the lover. To hold both is to hold fire and ice in the same palm. You will shatter, son Goku. Goku stepped forward, his maroon robes radiating a steady, rose-gold hum. I've spent my whole life breaking limits, Ignis. Love and war don't feel like opposites to me. I fight because I love my friends, and I love my friends because of the battles we've shared. Words of a child, Ignis spat. He raised a hand, and the marble F. Lore transformed into a gauntlet of trials. If you are the god of love and war, then your court must prove they are not mere trophies. They must face the refining fire. If their devotion to you is a lie, they will burn. If your leadership is a sham, you will watch them ash. A wall of primordial flame erupted, separating Goku from his harem. On the other side, the 5 women were suddenly haunted by personifications of their deepest insecurities. Android 21 faced a mirror of her hunger, Chilai, the ghost of a lonely death, Caulifla, the fear of being surpassed and forgotten, Kale, the terror of her own power, and Tawa, the cold logic that whispered her redemption was a fluke. Goku, Caulifla shouted, her fist hitting the barrier of fire. Stay focused. Goku roared back, his war aura flaring to its peak. Don't fight the fire, embrace what brought you here. Goku turned to Ignis, his eyes flashing with a terrifying, divine silver. You want to see if I'll shatter? Then let's see if you can handle the weight of what I've built. Goku didn't charge, he sat in a meditative stance, closing his eyes. He activated the harmonic resonance, a divine link that allowed him to share his spirit with his court. Instead of fighting Ignis physically, he became the anchor for his harem's souls. In the fire, Android 21 felt Goku's warmth satisfy her hunger. Chilai felt his hand on her shoulder, reminding her she was never alone again. Caulifla felt his respect, Kale felt his calm, and Tawa felt his unwavering belief in her mind. One by one, the women stepped through their personal hells. They didn't extinguish the fire. They absorbed it. Their auras merged with Goku's, creating a massive, 6-pointed star of energy that illuminated the entire void. We aren't just a harem, 21's voice echoed, amplified by the link. We are the facets of his divinity. The fire died instantly. Ignis took a step back, his bronze face etched with genuine shock. The marble platform hummed as the 5 women appeared by Goku's side. Their marks, the roses, the shields, the hourglass, shining with a new, permanent brilliance. You didn't protect them, Ignis whispered. You let them protect themselves through you. That's what love is, Goku said, standing up. It's not a shield, it's a reason to get back up. And that's what war is for, to make sure we have a place to stand. Ignis bowed his head, his massive frame flickering as he began to fade into the first heart's flame. The trial is past. You have unified the hearts of the disparate. But know this, Saiyan, the primordials are many, and the god of vengeance has already set his sights on the earth. He will not test your love, he will seek to murder it. The void collapsed, and Goku and his court were spat back into the sky above Capsule Corp. The air was peaceful, but Goku looked up at the stars, his hand tightening on his sash. Everyone, get ready, Goku said, his voice cold and ready for battle. The real war is coming home. End of Chapter 7. Chapter 8. The Shadow of Vengeance. The peace over Capsule Corp was a fragile glass dome, shattered the moment the sun turned a sickly, bruised purple. A monolithic spire of GGED black stone erupted from the center of West City, pulsing with a frequency that made the very air feel like it was weeping. Standing atop the spire was a figure draped in tattered, obsidian-colored robes. This was Acheron, the primordial of vengeance. Unlike Ignis, who sought to test, Acheron only sought to balance the scales of history with blood. Son Goku, Acheron's voice was a chorus of a billion screams. You preach love and war as a union, but you have forgotten the third pillar, consequence. For every life you saved, a debt was unpaid. For every enemy you redeemed, the ghosts of their victims cry out for a reckoning. Goku took to the air, his maroon and gold robes glowing. Beside him, his court formed a lethal phalanx. Android 21 analyzed the spire's energy, her face pale. Goku, that tower, it's not made of rock. It's made of condensed, spiritual debt. It's pulling the energy of every grudge held in Universe 7. I don't care what it's made of, Caulifla barked, her red gold aura flaring. If it's in our way, we break it. Wait, Goku cautioned, his divine senses tingling. He's not attacking us, he's attacking the concept of us. Acheron raised a skeletal hand. You claim a harem of warriors. Let us see if their love survives the weight of their past sins. He unleashed the mists of retribution. The black smoke engulfed the court. Suddenly, Chilai was surrounded by the angry spirits of the Frieza Force soldiers she had abandoned. Tawa was swarmed by the shadows of the timelines she had erased. Even Kale and Caulifla were faced with the planetary wreckage of the Saiyan race's bloody history. The women screamed as the mists began to drain their divinity, turning their marks of the rose and shield into dull, rusted iron. Your court is built on the ruins of others, Saiyan. Acheron laughed, his form expanding until he dwarfed the city. How can you be a god of love when your hands are stained with the war of 1,000 lifetimes? Goku felt the weight. The war side of his divinity began to turn violent, urging him to crush Acheron into dust. But the love side whispered a different path. He realized Acheron wasn't just a monster, he was the personification of the universe's trauma. You're right, Acheron, Goku said, his voice calm, cutting through the screams of the ghosts. I've caused a lot of pain. We all have. That's why we're here. Goku dove into the black mist. Not with a fist, but with his arms wide. He activated the sacrificial heart, a divine technique that allowed him to take the debt of his court onto his own soul. Black spirits turned their fury toward him, their claws tearing at his maroon robes, their screams filling his mind. Goku, no, 21 cried out, feeling her strength return as the pressure left her. Stay back. Goku gritted his teeth, his silver eyes flashing as he absorbed the darkness. He was a god of war, and he would take this war into himself. I am the god of this universe. If there's a debt to be paid, pay it to me. The rose gold light of his aura turned into a fierce, blinding white, the color of a star undergoing a supernova. He didn't fight the vengeance, he accepted it. He edged every mistake and every life lost, turning the debt into a devotion. The black spire cracked. Acheron shrieked as the source of his power, the universe's unresolved pain, was suddenly neutralized by Goku's absolute acceptance. Goku emerged from the mist, his robes tattered but his spirit glowing with an unearthly, serene radiance. He landed on the spire and looked Acheron in the eye. Vengeance is just love that's been hurt too many times, Goku said softly. He placed a hand on Acheron's chest. The love energy flowed like a river, washing away the obsidian robes to reveal a small, withered spirit beneath. You can rest now, I'll carry the weight from here. Acheron's form dissolved into stardust. The black spire crumbled into flower petals that drifted over the city. The cord landed around Goku, looking at him with a mix of awe and deep, soul-shaking concern. He looked older, his hair tinged with a faint, permanent silver at the tips. You took all of that, for us, Chilai whispered, reaching out to touch his hand. That's what a god does, Goku said, though he swayed slightly. But Acheron was just a messenger. The primordials are losing patience. They're going to stop testing us and start trying to replace us. High above, in the palace of the Zenos, the Grand Minister watched the screen with a frown. He is becoming too empathetic, he murmured to Whis. The god of love and war must be a ruler, not a martyr. It is time to introduce the trial of the Empress. End of Chapter 8. Chapter 9. The Empress of the Zenith. The aftermath of Acheron's defeat left a lingering, silvery fog over West City. But the atmosphere was far from peaceful. A sudden, sharp chime echoed across the sky, not the sound of a bell, but the sound of reality being struck by a tuning fork. A golden staircase materialized from the clouds, and descending from it was a woman whose presence made the very sun seem dim. She wore robes of woven starlight, and her hair flowed like a river of liquid mercury. This was Vespera, the primordial empress of order, the entity who had governed the hearts of the first gods before the concept of mortality even existed. Son Goku, she said, our voice like the shifting of tectonic plates. You have played at being a god. You have collected broken souls and called them a court. But you treat love as a burden to be carried, and war as a tool for protection. You are a servant, not a sovereign. Goku stood his ground, his hand resting on the hilt of a translucent, rose-gold blade that had manifested from his will. I do what I have to for the people I care about. If that makes me a servant, I'm fine with it. Vespera landed, her feet never quite touching the scorched earth. She looked at the harem, Android 21, Chilai, Caulifla, Kale, and Tawa, with a gaze of cold, clinical disappointment. A true god of love and war does not take the pain of his subjects. He demands their perfection. You have coddled them, and in doing so, you have made the universe weak. We aren't weak, Caulifla roared, her aura exploding into a supernova of crimson and gold. She charged, but Vespera didn't even look at her. With a flick of her wrist, she cast the mandate of the Empress. The world shifted. Goku found himself sitting on a massive, cold throne in a void of absolute silence. Beside him, his 5 companions were no longer warriors, they were statues of white marble. Their faces frozen in expressions of mindless adoration. "This is the order you lack," Vespera's voice echoed in the void. "Total obedience, total peace, no conflict, no pain, and no growth. Choose, Son Goku. Will you be a king of puppets, or will you watch your universe burn in the chaos of their free will?" Goku looked at the marble statues of his friends. He saw 21's brilliance, Chilai's grit, Caulifla's fire, Kale's depth, and Tao's wisdom, all silenced. "This isn't love," Goku whispered, his voice trembling with a growing, divine fury. "And this isn't war. This is just a graveyard." He stood up from the throne, and the war side of his divinity began to boil. His aura didn't just glow, it caught fire, turning a deep, bruised violet red. He gripped his rose gold blade and struck the throne, shattering the void. "I don't want a court that bows," Goku roared. "I want a court that fights. I want them to challenge me, to grow, and to be their own masters. That's the only way love means anything." The love energy within him surged, not as a shield, but as a resurrection pulse. He funneled his divine spark into the marble statues. He didn't order them to wake up. He invited them to rebel against the silence. The marble cracked. Android 21 was the first to break through, her magenta energy devouring the cold starlight of Vespera's spell. Then came the others, their auras more vibrant than ever because they had tasted the peace of the Empress and rejected it. "We like the mess, lady." Chilai spat, her green aura flaring as she aimed her spirit blaster. Vespera recoiled, her mercury hair flaring. "You would choose the agony of choice over the perfection of my rule." "Choice is what makes us strong," Goku said, stepping forward with his harem flanking him. "Every time they choose to stand by me, it's worth more than 1,000,000,000 years of your order." Together, the 6 of them unleashed a harmonized vanguard strike. It wasn't a blast of destruction, but a wave of pure, chaotic potential. It struck Vespera like a tidal wave. The primordial Empress didn't die, but her order was rewritten. Her starlight robes turned into a warm, sunset orange. "So be it," Vespera whispered as she began to fade back into the zenith. "You have chosen the path of the living God. But the zenith is watching. If you cannot control the fire you have stoked, it will consume the entire multiverse." As she vanished, Goku collapsed to one knee, the strain of the resurrection pulse taking its toll. But before he could hit the ground, 5 pairs of hands caught him. "Nice speech, Goku," Tao murmured, her eyes softening as she checked his pulse with her magic. "But don't think this means we're going to start being easy on you." Goku laughed weakly, looking at the diverse, powerful women who shared his burden. "I wouldn't have it any other way." However, far below in the deepest pits of Universe 11, a dark mirror was forming. The primordials were done with tests. They had summoned a shadow god, a being made of everything Goku had rejected. End of Chapter 9. Chapter 10. The Mirror of Malice. The victory over Vespera had left the god of love and war physically drained. But his spiritual gravity had never been stronger. However, that gravity was now acting as a beacon for a darkness that had been gestating in between, the space between the 12 universes. Goku was training with Caulifla and Kale in the hyperbolic time chamber, trying to teach them how to weave their auras into a braid of war, when the sky of the dimension cracked like glass. A figure stepped through, and the temperature dropped to absolute zero. It was a man who looked exactly like Goku, but his skin was a bruised charcoal gray, and his eyes were hollow pits of flickering violet fire. He wore tattered black robes that seemed to drink the light. This was Kage Goku, the god of apathy and slaughter, the shadow god birthed by the primordials to balance Goku's growing light. "You speak of love as a source of power," Kage Goku said, his voice a distorted, haunting echo of Goku's own. "But love is a tether. It makes you heavy. It makes you slow. I am the war without a cause. I am the love that has turned to rot." Without warning, the shadow god moved. He didn't use a martial arts stance, he moved like a flickering glitch in reality. He struck Caulifla, not with a fist, but with a hollow touch. She didn't fly back, she simply fell, her eyes going blank as if her very passion had been vacuumed out of her soul. "Caulifla!" Kale screamed, her aura erupting into a jagged, uncontrolled green. Don't touch him, Kale. Goku roared, but it was too late. Cage Goku caught her fist and whispered a single word, solitude. Kale's massive form shrunk instantly. She collapsed, shivering, her legendary power snuffed out by the sheer weight of the Shadow God's apathy. Goku felt a pain in his chest more acute than any physical wound. As the god of love, he was literally feeling the death of their emotions. He stepped forward, his maroon robes turning a dark, angry crimson. The war side of him was taking over, fueled by a protective rage he hadn't felt in eons. They aren't just my court, Goku hissed, his hair flickering between silver and rose gold. They're my life. The two Gokus clashed. The impact was so great it shattered the time chamber's walls, spilling the battle out into the grounds of the lookout. Android 21, Tawa, and Chilai rushed to the scene, but they were met by shadows, dark reflections of themselves rising from the ground. Goku and Cage Goku were a blur of violet and gold. Every time Goku struck with love, the Shadow God absorbed it, turning the affection into obsession and pain. Every time Goku struck with war, the Shadow God used it to fuel his own slaughter lust. You cannot win, Cage Goku mocked, pinning Goku to the ground with a knee of pure obsidian. I am everything you try to ignore. I am the part of the Saiyan that just wants to kill. I am the part of the lover that just wants to possess. He raised a blade of black ki, aiming it at Goku's heart. I will kill the god of love, and the universe will finally be silent. But then, a hand caught the black blade. It was Android 21, her Majin form glowing with a frantic, desperate magenta. Beside her, Tawa was chanting a spell of spiritual tethering, and Heli was firing shots of pure hope energy into the Shadow God's back. He doesn't ignore his shadows, 21 panted, her hands burning as she held the black key. He invites them to the table. He made us better, so we're going to make him stronger. Through the divine link, the three remaining women funneled every ounce of their devotion into Goku. It wasn't just energy, it was their memories of him, his kindness, his stupidity, his bravery. Goku's eyes snapped open. They weren't silver or gold anymore. They were a deep, shimmering violet rose. He reached up and grabbed Cage Goku's throat. I'm not trying to ignore you, Goku said, his voice resonating with the power of the entire court. I'm trying to transform you. Goku activated the ultimate synthesis. He didn't push the Shadow God away, he pulled him in. He forced the apathy to feel the love of his court, and the slaughter lust to feel the purpose of his war. Cage Goku shrieked as he was pulled into Goku's body. The darkness didn't vanish, it was processed. Goku's aura expanded until it covered the entire lookout, a magnificent, complex shade of twilight gold. The shadows disappeared. Caulifla and Kale gasped as their emotions rushed back into them. Cage Goku was gone, his essence now a permanent, controlled part of Goku's divine mantle. Goku stood in the center of the crater, his robes repaired and glowing with an iridescent sheen. He looked at his 5 consorts, his expression one of profound gratitude. We're not just a court anymore, Goku said, his voice sounding like a choir. We're a singularity. But as they gathered together, a massive eye opened in the sun. The first creator had seen enough. The singularity was a threat to the very structure of the multiverse. The final countdown to the Götterdämmerung of love had begun. End of Chapter 10. Chapter 11. The Eye of the First Architect. The sky did not just darken, it ceased to be. The sun, once a source of life, had transformed into a singular, colossal eye, the oculus of the first architect. Its gaze stripped away the pretenses of reality, making the towers of West City look like sketches on parchment. Goku stood at the center of the lookout, his new twilight gold aura humming with the density of a collapsing star. Beside him, his court felt the shift. The marks on their bodies, the rose, the shield, the hourglass, were no longer just symbols, they were anchors. Without them, they would have been erased by the mere sight of the oculus. The singularity, a voice spoke, not from the air, but from within their own thoughts. It was the architect, the one who had drawn the blueprints for the Zenos. You have achieved a union that was never meant to exist. Love and war are the friction that keeps the gears of the multiverse turning. By unifying them, you are stopping the machine. The machine is cold, Goku shouted, his voice echoing into the celestial void. If the gears require people to suffer and be alone, then the machine needs to be rebuilt. The oculus blinked. A wave of conceptual erasure swept across the planet. It wasn't an explosion, it was a deletion. Buildings, trees, and people began to fade into white static. Tawa, 21. Stabilize the sector, Goku commanded. Tawa raised her staff, her hourglass mark glowing. She wove a web of temporal stasis, catching the fading city in a loop of, now, preventing the erasure from progressing. Android 21 backed her up, using her scientific divinity to convert the architect's erasure code into raw matter, effectively, painting the city back into existence as fast as it was being deleted. We can't hold this forever, Goku. 21 cried, her skin shimmering with the strain. I know. Chilai, Caulifla, Kale, you're with me. We're going to the source. Goku grabbed their hands, and using his twilight gold energy, he performed a divine leap. They didn't travel through space, they traveled through the idea of space. They manifested directly in front of the Oculus, standing on a translucent bridge of pure thought. From the pupil of the giant eye stepped a guardian, the Seraph of the Void. It had no face, only 6 wings made of burning geometry and a sword that moved in 4 dimensions at once. To reach the architect, you must defeat the logic of the void, the Seraph declared. The battle was unlike any Goku had ever fought. The Seraph didn't strike at his body, it struck at the concept of his strength. It tried to prove that Goku was just a man playing at being a god. War is a lie, the Seraph roared, its blade cutting through Goku's aura. It is only destruction. Love is a lie, it screamed, striking at Kale and Caulifla. It is only chemical impulse. Goku caught the Seraph's blade with his bare hand. The twilight gold light flared, bleeding into the Seraph's geometric wings. If it's a lie, then why does it hurt so much when it's gone? Goku countered. And why does it feel so good when we fight for it? He pulled the Seraph closer, and the girls joined the fray. Chilai's shots weren't just energy, they were reminders of home. Caulifla's punches were declarations of self. Kale's power was the weight of devotion. They weren't fighting with martial arts. They were fighting with the truth of their bond. Under the combined pressure of the Harem's absolute belief in Goku and Goku's absolute protection of them, the Seraph began to crack. Its geometric form couldn't contain the illogic of their love. Impossible, the Seraph whispered as it shattered into a million glass-like shards. The architect's logic is being overridden. The Oculus began to close. But as it did, a massive hand reached out from the void, grabbing the edges of reality and pulling them apart. The architect was no longer just watching. He was stepping into the arena. If the gears will not turn, the architect's voice boomed, then I shall melt the metal and start again. Goku looked at his court. They were exhausted, their marks dimming. He realized that the next fight wouldn't just be for their lives, it would be for the right of every soul in the multiverse to feel. Get ready, Goku whispered, his hair turning a blinding, permanent white. The final blueprint is being drawn. End of Chapter 11. Chapter 12. The Architect's Final Draft. The hand that gripped the edges of reality was not made of flesh, but of shimmering, mathematical constants. As the architect stepped through the rift, he assumed a form that was terrifying in its simplicity, a humanoid figure of pure, translucent white, with galaxies swirling within his chest in the blue. Prince of a trillion failed universes etched into his skin. Son Goku, the architect spoke, and the sound was the vibration of every atom in existence. You are a beautiful heir. A Saiyan who found the heart of a god. But a building with a flawed foundation must be raised. I am the eraser. I am the pen. I am the end of your love and the peace of your war. The architect raised a finger, and a wave of existential stillness washed over the bridge. Time didn't stop, it was deleted. Goku felt his memories of Chi-Chi, his sons, and his battles beginning to fray at the edges, turning into meaningless data. Not today, Caulifla screamed, her voice breaking the silence. She and Kale surged forward, their auras intertwined in the braid of war. They struck the architect with a combined blast of jade and crimson. But the architect didn't even flinch. The energy hit him and turned into harmless butterflies that dissolved into nothing. Your passion is local, my logic is universal, the architect said. He swiped his hand, and a ripple of force sent the two Saiyans crashing back, their auras flickering like dying candles. Goku caught them, his white hair glowing with a cold, intense heat. Tawa, 21, we need a breach. His logic is a wall, we need to find the crack. Tawa, her face pale and her hourglass mark pulsing dangerously fast, raised her staff. He is the source of all code, Goku. To find a crack, I have to rewrite the laws of the primordial realm itself. Then do it, 21 shouted, her Majin tail glowing as she began to calculate the architect's frequency. I'll feed you the energy. Chilai, give us cover. Chilai stood in front of the scientists, her spirit blaster firing rounds of pure defiance. Each shot was a memory of the times she had survived against the odds. The architect moved to delete her. But Goku intercepted him. The clash was a cosmic disaster. Every punch Goku threw echoed across every timeline. The war side of his divinity was now a god-slayer engine, Fu. Held by the fear of losing the women behind him. The love side was a life anchor, keeping their souls attached to reality as the architect tried to scrub them away. You fight for a few individuals, the architect mocked. Catching Goku's fist, I fight for the perfection of the whole. Why choose the chaos of the many over the serenity of the one? Because the one is lonely. Goku roared. He handled the twilight gold energy into a divine headbutt, the impact cracking the architect's translucent face. I've been the strongest, I've been the one at the top, and it's nothing without the people who make you want to be better. At that moment, Tawa and 21 found the frequency. Now, Goku, they screamed in unison. They unleashed the Axiom Breaker. A beam of magenta and violet energy struck the architect's chest, creating a localized zone where his rules didn't apply. For a split second, the architect was just a man. Court, together, Goku commanded. The 5 women combined their essences into Goku's back. Chilai's grit, 21's hunger for knowledge, Tao's foresight, and the Saiyan's raw power flowed into him. Goku's white hair flared into a crown of iridescent fire. He lunged, his and glowing with a technique he had just birthed, the Omni Heart Strike. He drove his palm into the architect's chest, right where the galaxy swirled. This is the love you couldn't calculate. The architect's body began to fracture. Lines of rose gold light spread across his white skin. He looked at Goku, and for the first time, the expressionless entity showed a flicker of something human, curiosity. So, this is the friction. The architect whispered. The resulting explosion didn't destroy. It reset. The white void collapsed, and suddenly, they were all back on the lookout. The sky was blue, the sun was a sun, and the citizens of West City were no longer static. Goku fell to his knees, his white hair fading back to its base black, his maroon robe scorched and tattered. He breathed heavily, the scent of ozone and roses thick in the air. Is he gone? Chilai asked, leaning on her blaster. No, Goku panted, looking up at the sky. He's just watching. He's letting the experiment continue. But the peace was interrupted by a low, rhythmic thumping. It was coming from the center of the earth. The architect had been pushed back, but the Earth's core had been agitated by the divine battle. The planet was starting to break apart from the inside out. We saved the universe, Tawa said, looking at her scanners with horror. But we might have just killed the world. End of Chapter 12. Chapter 13. The heartbeat of the world. The victory over the architect had left the heavens silent, but the earth was screaming. Beneath the feet of the divine court, the crust of the planet groaned. Fissures erupted across the gardens of the lookout, venting pressurized steam and molten ki. The battle of concepts had destabilized the physical tether of Goku's home. The tectonic plates are dissynced. Android 21 shouted over the roar of the wind. She knelt, pressing her palms to the marble tiles, her magenta aura probing the depths. Goku, the architect's logic held the physical laws together. When we broke his hold, the Earth's core lost its instruction manual. It's overcharging. Can we fix it? Goku asked, his voice steady despite the tremors. He looked at his hands. The twilight gold light was faint, flickering like a candle in a storm. Not with force, Tawa said, her hourglass staff spinning. The Earth isn't just a rock, it's a living entity. It's having a panic attack on a planetary scale. If we try to suppress it with power, it'll just explode faster. Goku looked at his 5 companions. They were battered, their divine marks dimmed from the fight with the Seraph. But in their eyes, he saw the very thing that had defeated the architect, a refusal to give up on the small things. We have to soothe it, Goku decided. The same way I soothe the war in all of you. We need to perform a global union. You want to hug the planet? Caulifla asked, half joking, though she was already powering up her red gold aura. In a way, yeah, Goku said. I'm going to the core. I need all of you to act as my conductors. Spread out to the 5 cardinal points of the globe. Use your marks to broadcast a frequency of stability. I'll be the anchor in the center. It's a suicide mission, Goku. Chilai whispered, stepping closer. The pressure down there, even for a god. Goku placed a hand on her cheek, a soft, divine warmth radiating from his palm. I'm the god of love and war, remember? I'm built for the pressure. With a final nod, the harem dispersed. 21 flew north, Tawa south, Chilai west, and the Saiyan sisters east. Goku took a deep breath and dived. He didn't use a drill. He phased through the matter, his body becoming a streak of rose-gold light that cut through the mantle like a needle through silk. The deeper he went, the louder the war became. The core was a sun of liquid iron, spinning out of control. The heat was enough to vaporize a normal Super Saiyan blue instantly. Goku felt his maroon robes begin to singe, his skin blistering. Now, he roared through the divine link. At the four corners of the world, the women unleashed their power. From the north, 21 sent a wave of logical calm. From the south, Tawa sent temporal fluidity. From the west, Chilai sent hopeful resilience. From the east, Caulifla and Kale sent rhythmic passion. The four pillars of light converged on the core. Goku caught the energies, weaving them into a net of twilight gold. He wrapped his arms around the literal center of the world, his heart beating in sync with the planet's frantic pulse. Easy now, Goku whispered, the love aspect of his divinity flooding the iron sea. I've got you. We aren't going anywhere. The Earth's core began to slow. The violent vibrations smoothed into a deep, resonant hum. The fissures on the surface sealed, and the lava receded. Goku stood at the center of the world, holding the balance of the planet in his hands, sweating and laughing. But as the planet stabilized, a shadow appeared in the molten iron. It wasn't a person, but a reflection. Goku looked into the liquid metal and saw not himself, but a vision of a golden throne standing atop a mountain of skulls. The trial is not over, a voice whispered. D from the depths, a voice that sounded like a darker version of the Grand Priest. You have saved the house, but you have yet to meet the landlord of the soul. Goku was suddenly yanked out of the core, not by his own power, but by a summoning. He reappeared on the lookout, but his harem was gone. In their place stood a single, towering gate made of bone and gold. The final courtroom had opened. End of Chapter 13. Chapter 14. The final courtroom of the soul. Goku stood alone before the gate of bone and gold. The silence was absolute, a heavy, pressurized void that felt like the weight of a dozen universes pressing against his chest. His twilight gold aura was a mere flicker. For the first time since his ascension, he felt the cold bite of true isolation. 21. Caulifla, anyone, he called out, but his voice didn't echo. It simply vanished. The gates creaked open. Behind them lay not a battlefield, but a vast, shimmering courtroom under a sky of swirling nebulas. Seated upon 12 towering thrones were the Shadow Arbiters, the original judges of the multiverse who predated even the Zenos. At the center of the hall, 5 glass pillars stood, each containing one of his consorts. They were conscious but frozen, their expressions etched with the moment they were taken. Son Goku, the lead arbiter spoke, a being whose face was hidden by a veil of starlight. You have played the god. You have saved the earth and defied the architect. But you have committed the ultimate celestial sin, the sin of attachment. That's not a sin, Goku growled, his fists tightening. That's the only thing that kept the world together. In the eyes of the mortal, perhaps, the arbiter countered. But a god of love and war must be impartial. By choosing these 5, you have biased the destiny of Universe 7. You have turned a divine mandate into a personal kingdom. To maintain the balance, you must now undergo the severing. The arbiter pointed a gavel made of dark matter at the pillars. If you wish to remain the god, you must release your claim over them. They will return to their lives, their memories of your court, erased. If you refuse, we shall erase the concept of love from your universe entirely, leaving only the war. Goku looked at the pillars. He saw Android 21's brilliant mind, Chilai's fierce heart, Tao's calculated redemption, and the raw, beautiful fire of Caulifla and Kale. If he let them go, the universe would be balanced, but it would be empty. If he kept them, he risked the destruction of the very thing he swore to protect. I don't believe in your balance, Goku said, his voice low and vibrating with a new, dark resonance. You think being a god means standing above everyone. But I'm a Saiyan. We don't stand above, we climb. He didn't power up into a transformation. Instead, he closed his eyes and reached into the divine link, the tether that connected his soul to the 5 women. He didn't ask for their power, he gave them his. I'm not the one holding them, Goku whispered to the arbiters. They're the ones holding me. Goku activated the rebellion of the heart. He funneled his god essence into the glass pillars. The glass didn't shatter, it melted. The 5 women stepped out. Not as prisoners, but as extensions of his own divinity. Their marks, the rose, the shield, the hourglass, fused together, forming a single, radiant crest of the united will on each of their brows. He chose us, 21 said, her eyes glowing with a violet rose light. And we choose the mess, Caulifla added, her aura igniting the courtroom. The shadow arbiters rose from their thrones, their veils fluttering in the sudden wind of defiance. Then you choose the end of the old order. If you will not be our god, you shall be our target. The arbiters descended, transfer. Ming into 12 pillars of destructive light. The final battle for the soul of the god of love and war had begun, but Goku wasn't fighting alone. He was the center of a storm, a king who didn't rule, but led a charge of equals. This isn't a courtroom, Goku roared, his hair turning a final, transcendent shade of platinum rose. This is a revolution. As the first arbiter struck, the entire dimension began to fracture. The old laws were dying. A new era was screaming to be born. End of Chapter 14. Chapter 15. The Dawn of the Infinite Heart. The final courtroom was no longer a place of law, it was a theater of cosmic restructuring. The 12 shadow arbiters moved with the precision of clockwork, their strikes aiming to dismantle the very atoms of the divine court. But they were fighting a static past, while Goku and his harem were fighting for a living future. The union is a parasite. The lead arbiter cried, swinging a scythe of absolute silence. It consumes the purity of the divine. Goku met the scythe with his bare forearm, the platinum rose energy sparking like a grinding wheel. It's not a parasite, Goku grunted, his eyes burning with a serene ferocity. It's a bridge. They've been sitting on these thrones so long you forgot what it's like to breathe. Behind him, the harem moved in perfect, intuitive synchronization, the zenith formation. Tawa and Android 21 combined their brilliance, creating a field of infinite variables. They didn't just fight the arbiters, magic, they hacked it, turning the laws of the courtroom against the judges themselves. Gravity became a weapon, time became a cage. Chilai acted as the court's soul, her spirit blaster firing rounds of divine empathy. Each shot didn't wound the arbiters, it forced them to feel the weight of the lives they had judged from afar. The arbiters staggered, their cold logic cracking under the sudden influx of mortal sorrow and joy. Caulifla and Kale were the physical manifestation of the war. They became a dual sun of destruction and protection, their fists shattering the dark matter armor of the judges. We're the ones who decide our worth. Caulifla roared, her red gold hair trailing fire. Not some dusty ghosts in capes. The battle reached its crescendo as the 12 arbiters merged into a single, towering entity, the primordial executioner. It raised a blade that promised the heat death of the universe. Everything ends, the executioner boomed. Not if it's loved, Goku countered. Goku pulled his 5 consorts into a circle. He didn't merge their bodies, but their intent. This was the ultimate technique of the god of love and war, the universal pulse. One last time, everyone. Goku shouted, give me everything you are. The light that erupted from the center of the courtroom was not a blast of ki. It was a wave of pure, unadulterated existence. It carried the scent of 21's curiosity, Chilai's survival, Tao's redemption, and the Saiyan's unyielding fire. It hit the executioner and didn't destroy him, it filled him. The executioner shrieked as the void within him was replaced by the complexity of life. The courtroom shattered, the thrones crumbled, the old order of the arbiters dissolved into a warm, golden rain that fell across all 12 universes. When the light faded, they weren't in a courtroom anymore. They were standing on the peak of Mount Paozu, back on Earth. The sun was rising, casting a soft orange glow over the valley. Goku stood at the center, his platinum rose aura slowly fading back to his normal state. His maroon robes were gone, replaced by his familiar orange GI. But the white sash of the god remained, and the marks on the women's brows stayed bright. Whissen the Grand Priest appeared, bowing deeply. The arbiters have stepped down, the Grand Priest announced, a look of genuine wonder on his face. The Zen-Osamas are intrigued. You have proven that a heart bound to others is more stable than a heart bound to duty. So, I'm still the god? Goku asked, scratching his head. You are the sovereign of the new age, Whis smiled. And your court is recognized as the keepers of the multiverse's pulse. Goku looked at the 5 women surrounding him. They were tired, covered in dust, and smiling. 21 was already looking at the stars, planning new research. Chilai was laughing at a joke Caulifla made, while Kale leaned contentedly against a tree. Tawa was watching the horizon, her eyes no longer cold. I don't know much about being a sovereign, Goku said, pulling them all into a group hug that nearly knocked them over. But I know I'm hungry. Who wants to go get some planet-sized lunch? The laughter echoed through the valley. The god of love and war had won his greatest battle, not by destroying his enemies, but by refusing to be alone. The multiverse was still a dangerous, chaotic place, but for the first time in eternity, it was a place where even a god could find a home. End of chapter 15. The end. And this was only the beginning. A universe where Goku is no longer bound by gods, where love stands equal to destruction, and war becomes the path to unity. The god of love and war has awakened, and every realm will soon feel the weight of his choices. Power will be tested, loyalties will be broken, and destiny itself will kneel. If you want to see how this empire rises, how each bond is forged, and how the multiverse reacts to a ruler unlike any before, stay with us, because this story doesn't end here. It evolves. Welcome to What If Nexus, where legends are rewritten, and impossible stories become reality.